Hello, welcome to Celebrate Southern Africa. My name is Dawn Denton, and today I'm chatting about my favorite thing, which is books. And Martine Mockford is joining me today from east of England. Tell us where you are.
I currently live in a village called Beckrow, which is right next to the Mildenhall United States Air Force Base, um, and that's in Suffolk.
Wow, so that must be a bit noisy in the sky sometimes.
Yes, at the moment we have a lot of activity with the F-35s and the Ospreys, and obviously the other aircrafts are very busy.
Well, is that where like the president would fly in if they came to the UK?
Yeah, that's where he flies in. Yeah.
So I think we're going to see a bit more of the entourage in the next couple of weeks. I'm sure he'll make a very soon visit to the UK once he's inaugurated. I'm not sure when his plan is, but he always seems to think that this is the next, this is the best relationship. So well, I suppose we can expect him coming very soon, no doubt. So you're going to see it all coming in and landing.
No, I can't see the airstrip, but I can see loads of photographers on the side of the road, amateur photographers, when loads of cars start parking and loads of people with big lenses, and I know something's happening that's important.
And it might not even be important to us, but it's important to somebody. So
Yeah.
I'm sure. But so now you have written a book, and I know there's a huge stat, and I don't know what the number is. I'm not going to quote it, but it's something like 70-80% of the people in this world have said, I would love to write a book and never have. Now, were you one of those people? And what made you change your mind?
Well, I never really wanted to write a book, but something happened and something was said to me, and I was like shocked and sat back and thought, actually, I need to investigate why things were said to me. And so I decided I was going to write a book about it because I couldn't talk about my life. And when I spoke about very small incidences in my life, people would say, "Oh, you should write a book." And then also they would be like a bit unbelievable and sort of say, "Oh, did that really happen to you?" And and the thing is, I could never tell anybody what really happened because so many different things happened. I'd be speaking to someone for hours. So eventually, I wrote the book.
So did you then just sit down and start from the very beginning, or did you kind of just plot different incidences and then try and weave them together?
Well, it took me a couple of years of basically having notebooks, bits of paper everywhere, and like four notebooks, whichever notebook I had with me. And if I had a memory, I would write it down. When I first started, I got a book and I did each year of my life with a few pages, thinking that will be how it will work. But it didn't really work like that because memories would just be triggered by something, and then I would write it down quickly. And so when I did eventually start writing my book, I had to wade through loads of different papers and loads of scraps and just cross out things that I'd written about. And also, I did sort of spend a bit of time with my sister for the early memories, asking her because she was seven and a half, no, about 7 years older than me. So she helped with the early years. We weren't very close, but the last few years we got close because she helped me with the early years of our lives.
I think that's fascinating because I think that also just speaking to another family member often triggers those memories because I speak to people, even just not family, and they remind me of something. And if you'd
Yeah,
asked me about that, I would never have remembered, but they trigger it and I go,
yeah,
oh my goodness, I completely forgot about that. So
yeah,
that's a really useful thing. And I also love the fact that it's brought you and your sister closer because, often those shared experiences are what solidifies relationships. And often we need something to intervene to bring us closer. And maybe that's what your book's done.
yeah, definitely. In some ways, and in other ways, it's brought up a bit of few red flags. But at the end of the day, it's my story, and it can be a very difficult and emotional story. And people have said, It's amazing that I got through it and became a normal person, which I am. I'm a normal person. Um, but yeah, that's what I did. I just wrote the book as a third person, and I just wrote the book about Martine, the little girl, and it was who I was and what I experienced, and that's what the story's about.
So it is it's clear that it's your autobiography. You haven't kind of embellished anything or made it
No,
fictional at any point. It is
no,
completely
no,
your
no.
story.
No, I mean, unfortunately, I had no family. So my mother and father were from Belgium, and my sister was born in Belgium, and they came over for my father to work in the mines. So I had no family. So basically, it was just me and them. But yeah, I wrote the story as a third person. So if someone did read it that knew me, it would be like a novel as such. It's not just me saying I and this and I, because I thought that would be really boring for the person reading it. So what I wanted is the person who reads it to to see the story from my eyes and experience what I experienced, and at the end of the story be relieved that I got to the point where I was.
And is there a common thread? Is there a message through the book? Is it about survival? Is it about coming out the other side? Or what are the main lessons that you think the reader might take from your story?
I think the main lesson for me was patience, um, because even as a child and as an adult, you go through really difficult times in life, and we expect everything to be fixed straight away. And sometimes you just have to be patient in your relationship with your friends and family. And if they're going through a difficult time and you're going through a difficult time, just be patient with each other and be patient with yourself. And even sometimes when the other person's been difficult and you have to just take time away from them, you just need to be patient. And even if you have to change your life to be a better life, but just be patient. Like my example is, as a teenager, you might be living in a really difficult environment and you want to leave. Sometimes the best option is not to run away, but to just endure it for another year and then be independent and able to look after yourself properly, because you could be running away from one bad environment to a completely horrible, horrible environment. So that's just my message. Whether it's wrong or right, I don't know. And what's best for other people, I don't know. But generally in life, I think people should just be patient.
Oh, I love that. And I know that we've all experienced that and we've all been disappointed that we've jumped sometimes from a situation too early. And even though we think we are suffering and there's no other way out, I think that's a really powerful message. What was your experience with writing and books growing up?
Well, I left school when I was in the middle of standard 9. I was taken out of school because my mother said she couldn't afford to pay for me to go to school anymore. And I never did any education since then. So, no, I had no further education. I just thought one day I'll write my book. And my nephew didn't really want to read my book because he felt I was family and it's going to be boring. And then eventually I said, "Are you going to read my book?" And eventually he read it. And then he phoned me and he said, "Oh my goodness, your book was amazing." He said, "I couldn't put it down, and you were very kind to my mother and my granny." And I took that as a compliment, because my book wasn't there to to make them look bad. My book was there to tell my story. It wasn't there to say how bad they were or what they did. Because if I don't write about them, I don't know where they are. I only write about them when they're part of my life. So yeah, that was his opinion.
Well, I think that's a really lovely message, really, from the family, because often family can very quickly have a problem with something that we've said or done, or interpret it in a way that we don't really want them to, or that, just the wrong angle, wrong end of the stick, which is the story of family, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. So I was quite pleased with that. But unfortunately, I mean, my book is has lots of triggers for people that have been in difficult situations, and I've had a number of people that have said that they were very emotionally moved and cried during the book. So for people who want to read it, just be aware that if you're a sensitive person, um, it might be touching for you, but just remember, I did end up being a normal human being, and I did survive it. But it's also a good book for people that do have abusive situations, that they can come out the other end and they don't have to be a damaged person, and they don't have to have people judging them because of where they come from. Because I came from a really bad environment, and I was bullied because of where I came from, but I've come through the other end and became a normal person per se.
I think, just the fact that because often people say, oh, I'm not a writer and I'm not good at English and I didn't do well at school and therefore I don't have the confidence to write a book. And you have shown that none of that matters, because what matters the most is the story.
Yeah. Yeah, I did find the most difficult part for me in writing was the dialogue, um, because I found it difficult to put myself in other people's situations and try write what they would say and what they would say and what I would say. Um, but it wasn't like just write it. I had to really, really think and imagine what these people would be saying to each other to try get it to be interesting for the reader. Because the whole purpose of the book was to get people to read it and maybe just see life from a child's point of view that's in a difficult situation, as opposed to an adult's point of view looking down at a child. And also the other thing with my story is, um, normally you normally have the father who's abusive, but in my case it was my mother because I didn't have a father.
Wow, wow, that's really, I feel for you, but I really celebrate the fact that you have
Mm.
wanting to share the story, because that must have been therapeutic for in
Yeah,
itself for you.
yes, it was. And it was nice to get the story out. And there were, when I finished it, it was like, should I put this in? Should I not put this in? And eventually I made decisions on what I put in and what I didn't put in. And it was strange because some of the stuff is really personal, and I feel as if some people that knew me have read it and disappeared, as if like now they're embarrassed to talk to me. And I'm like, I don't understand why, because what I've put in there has happened to lots of other young women, but nobody talks about it. They're too embarrassed because it's very personal. And I felt I was going to put it in because there's lots of young girls that go out on dates and they get molested or raped, but they never ever talk about it. And I put that in my book because, young girls are abused all the time by people they go out on a date for the first time or people they meet and trust. And they don't tell anybody, like I didn't tell anybody. So I've put that in my book, and hopefully it'll help another young girl one day, to understand she's not the only one.
And also for older women to realize that, you can talk about it and there's a freedom in talking about it,
Mm,
to release some of that pain, but also to
mm.
know that what you're sharing can have a huge impact on other people.
Definitely, definitely. I think abusive men have got away with it for so long because nobody talks about it. And so we just need to talk about things and just not feel embarrassed, because that's the whole problem, is people feel embarrassed when it's not their fault at all, and it's just so cruel that men can get away with it. Certain men, I'm not saying all men.
And it's very brave of you. Do you feel that this had an impact on your relationship with your husband? Did he know everything, or was this some of these things new for him?
My husband won't read the book, so he's not interested, and I haven't encouraged him to read the book. It's up to him if he wants to read the book. He just says he met me the way I was, and he's happy not to read the book. And I said, that's fine. I mean, he met my mother, he met my sister, he knew me we met when I was 13 or 14. So we got married at 17. So I was 17 and he was 21. So we're going to be married 40 years on the 11th of February. Yeah.
Wow,
So, yeah,
congratulations. That's
thank
amazing.
you. Yeah.
That's a really interesting little twist in your story, and I think that's really commendable of him. It's a
Mm,
wonderful thing to be able to say, I'm fully supportive of you sharing your story, but I
mm,
want to keep what we have separate from that,
yeah.
which I think is a commendable thing, and
Mm.
brave of him to do as well, because yeah, I think that's wonderful. Now, is there another book in you?
No, no. The story was my story, but to have another book in would have to include my husband, and he's very private and doesn't want me to write anything about him. So even in my book, the day we get married is the day the book ends, and he asked me not to write about him much. So the book is very, very ambiguous about him. I don't really write about who he really is. But yeah, he is in the book, but that's why I won't write a second book, because it was just about my childhood, and it's not fair on him for me to write a second book on his, including his life.
And it hasn't sparked a fictional excitement for you to create something?
I could do, but what I've done now, because my brain was pretty empty after I finished writing, I've actually started doing a degree. So I'm doing a long distance degree with Portsmouth University. So I'm just finishing my first year, and then I'll start my second year.
And what is the
So
subject?
criminal, a BSc honors in criminology and criminal justice.
That's fantastic. Congratulations. I
Oh,
think
thank you.
it is the bravest thing to not only write your story, but then to take on a degree. When you a lot of people are thinking, oh, I better start winding down, I better start
Yeah.
thinking about my pension in the next 15, 20, 30,
Mm,
years or whatever. I think that is
yeah.
incredibly brave of you. And you've found your direction. I was chatting to a young gentleman this morning, and he's in his early 30s, and he said to me, I still don't know what I want to do with my life, and it's really worrying me. And I said, well, I'm a 53-year-old woman, and I still don't know what I want to do with my life. So
Mm,
that's not going to change. But the
no.
right thing comes when you are ready for it, and you are ready for this.
Yeah, yes. I mean, it was quite a thing trying to convince the university to take me on with a standard 8, because I didn't finish standard 9 and no further education. But yeah, I mean, I used to work at a university I used to work at Cambridge University as an admissions officer, and my boss, the admissions tutor, he did put a good word in for me. So yeah, I did manage to convince them to take me on, and yeah, I have passed the first year, so
Did
I've
you
done
find it
okay.
did you find it really difficult, or because with life experience, I think sometimes these things become a bit easier?
No, I found it difficult because they speak a different language,
I know
really.
you think England is a different, the same country, but it's.
Yeah, I mean the terminology in criminology is just completely different, and in research they use a whole lot of different terminology that I'm learning. Um, but yeah, I'm coping and I'm passing, so that's the most
Well
important thing.
done. That is
And
so inspirational. I just think that is absolutely marvelous. So congratulations for passing your first
thank
year,
you, thank
and
you.
good luck for the rest of it. So, Martine, tell people where they can get hold of your book.
So my book is on my website at www.martine, Martine, Lechambre, which is actually my maiden name. So it's Martine, LACHAMBRE.com, or on Amazon, on the Amazon website and the book is called Martine, the Girl in the Shadows. So you have to put Martine, Martine, the Girl in the Shadows, and you can buy the book on Amazon. But
Okay,
if they
great.
want to,
I'll pop the
sorry,
link. I'll pop the link with this as well, so people can just click on the link and go
yeah,
directly
yeah,
there.
yeah.
Would be great.
I was just going to say, if they want to look at pictures, because what I've done on my personal website, I put loads of pictures on of myself and family members.
Okay, so then that gives people an insight into what it was, what you were like then as well. It kind of
Yeah,
side by side with the book.
yeah.
Oh, lovely. Oh, well, that's brilliant. So yeah, I'll pop the details here with the book link, and people can also go to Amazon and pick up your book. But Martine, I have so enjoyed. I'm so inspired by you that you have written this really challenging story of your life
Mm.
to help other people, but also that you are studying, and I think that's marvelous. So congratulations, and thank you so much for sharing with me today.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.